Now, boys and girls, if you couldn't tell by a lot of my logos and a lot of the kind of stuff that I use around here, I'm a little bit of a DC fanboy. I'm a huge fan of Batman, as so many people out there are, and obviously I'm a huge fan of Superman. Batman, the animated series, was one of my first introductions to the character as a kid, and I've been absolutely in love with DC ever since. Obviously, I really enjoy some Marvel stuff, love me some Spider-Man, love me some X-Men, all of that kind of stuff as well. There's a lot of great stuff coming out of there from both of the companies, but obviously, as we've seen over the last few years, Marvel has turned into absolute disarray when it comes to its cinematic universe, and nobody really trusts Kevin Feige or Bob Iger to turn anything around in any way, shape, or form. We really don't have much hope for the MCU going forward. Well, one of the things that we have seen over the last few years is a complete and total reboot over the Warner Brothers DC brand over there. Obviously, long gone are the days of Henry Cavill. May his Superman rest in peace. I miss you, Henry. I'm definitely a Henry Cavill simp. Won't deny that. Super excited for his Warhammer 40k stuff. But that being said, we do have more or less a complete and total reboot. There's a couple of hangers on with like Peacemaker and some of that kind of stuff, and I know that is enough of an excuse for some people to go, "This is BS. This is nonsense. James Gunn's just keeping around what he wants." And yes, that's true to a certain degree. James Gunn's keeping around the things he's recreated, but he even said that Peacemaker is going to get a bit of a soft reboot too, dealing with the things going forward in the DC universe. But one of the things that I had caused was I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not even know if I'm necessarily optimistic anymore, but I'm definitely cautious about what's going forward with the DC. I'm willing to give it a shot, right? Because one of the things that we've seen with this is, of course, the casting has absolutely been spot on. When the casting was first announced, when some of the rumors were going around, David Corenswet was who I was hoping for on this kind of thing to end up getting cast as the role, and it was something that I was very excited about. I thought the casting was absolutely spot on. We're even getting a redheaded Jimmy Olsen all over again. Like, that's something we've seen, a major erasure of redheads throughout the entire time of going through in modern era throughout history. Throughout the modern era in cinema and in comics and all of that kind of stuff, we've seen the erasure of redheads. I mean, one of my first videos to actually do well on any of the platforms out there was my erasure of redheads. I'm also a big fan of redheads. I even married one. So it's one of those situations where there are a lot of good signs coming out of this that show it might be something good. I know a lot of people have issues because it seems like the storyline's going to be very overbloated with characters and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we're just going to have to wait and see how it pulls off. I'm waiting to really pass judgment as to when we start seeing some of the first trailers and obviously when we see things actually come out. But as of right now, a lot of signs are pointing in good directions. The casting is beautiful, the casting is wonderful, and considering some of the storyline stuff that we've heard on, depending on which way they go with that, as far as like the Superman for all seasons and for some of that kind of stuff that we've been hearing, it's very interesting to see what's going to end up happening. So we've got some new information coming out of this from David Corenswet himself, talking about he's teasing what to expect from the new Superman movie 2 months after filming has now begun. So it's 2 months after filming has begun. So we're going to be very curious to see what goes on with this. We're curious to what he says. Because like I said, I am cautiously optimistic. I want to see DC do well. I'm very tired of seeing all of our favorite heroes destroyed and just absolutely bastardized in so many different ways. So we'll see what happens with James Gunn going forward. But as of right now, at least the casting is spot on. So we'll see how things go from there. But so this is the latest from Screen Rant over here. So Superman actor David Corenswet reveals what the DC Universe's audience can expect from James Gunn's highly anticipated reboot of the Man of Steel. Now, boys and girls, it's one of them situations where if you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. David Corenswet, who is set up to play the titular hero in James Gunn's Superman movie, shares new expectations from the upcoming DC Universe film. One of the earliest installments in James Gunn's DC Universe will be the Superman movie. It will also help set the foundation for Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Corenswet is the latest actor to join Superman's live-action media legacy, as he will be taking on the role of Man of Steel and Gunn's franchises. Honestly, if you look at the kid, if you've seen some of the stuff he's acted in before, he's a very good role for the boy from Kansas. And the fact that he's been putting in the work, the fact that the boy has gotten jacked as all get out at the gym actually gives me a little bit more hope, because he's willing to put in the work. And this is also a kid that's been a fan of Superman for a while. There was a interview from him from years and years back. He said that if there was one dream role that he could ever possibly play, it was Superman. And at the time, Henry Cavill was Superman. So he's like, obviously, I can't do that because Henry's got the thing nailed down. But if sometime in the future, I would love to play it. He said one of his favorite characters. There's even pictures of him as a kid in a Superman outfit. So it's one of those situations. This kid has been a fan for a long time. Once again, another good sign. I understand if you don't trust James Gunn. I understand if you hate the guy's guts all the way to no end. I completely understand that, respect that. I will not hate on you for having that opinion in which shape or form. It's completely and totally warranted. I'm just trying to be cautiously optimistic about this kind of thing. So Gunn's Superman movie has been filming for nearly 2 months, as the cast has been busy finally portraying their respective characters. David Thompson, who was present at an event recently that Corenswet was attending, mentioned how the actor had said that Superman is based on for all seasons and all-star, while stressing the story will be totally its own thing. Now, this video right here doesn't actually show him saying this, but David Thompson claims right here that before this, when he signed the shirt, he mentioned how the vibes of the new movie are based on for all seasons and all-star Superman, but the story is totally its own thing. Also, nicest guy in the world, absolutely huge, great handshake, also punched me in the chest. Now, that is great. It sounds like this guy is totally down for the fans. Sounds like he's got a very great attitude, which is exactly what we need. He's definitely seems like he's going kind of the Henry Cavill route of being very kind to the fans, being very good with them, and that's a very, very good path to follow. Now, like I said, this video doesn't actually show any of this kind of stuff, but let's talk about Superman for all seasons, right? If this is something that you haven't read, I highly recommend it. This is probably going to be the most positive, optimistic version of Superman you have ever seen, and if this is kind of the direction that they're going on with their Superman, which honestly kind of makes sense for what we've been kind of speculating what the story is about, right? Like, we know that the story is going to have the authority in it, right? And James Gunn has already said that this is going to be a Superman that's coming into a world where there's already established superheroes. That's why we're getting Green Lantern, Guy Gardner in it, and we're also getting the authority and that kind of stuff. And one of the situations where if this is really the combination, this is strictly my theory. This is strictly me theory crafting here, right? If that's the case, if this is a combination of All-Star Superman, this is a combination of Superman for all seasons and all of that kind of stuff with the authority and all of that kind of stuff, and the Superman coming back, right? As kind of the older gentleman, right? But instead they're doing a twist on it with the younger Superman. So what I'm thinking is, if this is the case, right? If it is a Superman for all seasons, then we are going to get the very optimistic, positive, morally just boy from Kansas trying to come into a world with superheroes who push the line. We know the authorities, kind of like the anti-hero kind of version of the Justice League. We obviously know that Guy Gardner is an asshole. Everybody knows that. The guy's a bit of a jerk. And so it's one of those situations where this would be the perfect time for a boy like Superman, who is obviously going to be the most powerful out of absolutely all of them, be able to come in and go, hey, we don't play like this anymore. We're not going to do this game. I'm not going to watch you beat up people. I'm not going to watch you freaking, kill criminals. I'm not going to watch you do any of that kind of stuff. I'm not going to allow that to happen. That's what I at least think potentially is where this could go. As to whether or not that actually ends up being happening, we'll find out. So the two Superman comics are being referred to are Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. All-Star Superman was one of the first influences that Gunn revealed for the DC Universe, as it will draw inspiration from the story rather than be a full adaptation. Outside of Superman for All Seasons and All-Star Superman, there's been a lot of other DC influences driving Gunn's new movie. Two animated properties are part of Gunn's Superman filmation. Superman the Animated Series, which is absolutely great. It's one of my favorites. It's what I grew up on. It's one of my first introductions to Superman. And Max Fleischerman's Superman serials, which is classic, old school, really good stuff too. Whether or not any other Superman adaptations factor in the film is unclear. So Superman, they've got all of this kind of stuff. It's one of those. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, right? That's what we're going to have to see. All-Star Superman, gotten a lot of this kind of stuff. They're showing a lot of the Superman animated series. It's just going to be one of those situations we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I am still cautiously optimistic about this. Corenswet is saying all the right things. He's acting all the right ways with the fans. The dude's gotten jacked. Like, if that really is the case, that they're going with the Superman from Superman for all seasons, then everybody that complained about Henry Cavill's version of Superman being too dark and dreary and not positive and optimistic enough, well, boys and girls, that's exactly what you're going to get. All of your prayers have been answered. As to whether or not James Gunn and the rest of the folks over at DC can actually pull this off, it's only a matter of time. But as of right now, everything's pointing in the right direction. As to whether or not it's just a bunch of marketing scam and it'll all just end up being a BS, it's only going to be another year or so before we actually find out. But at least for now, things are going in the right direction, and I honestly cannot wait to see David Corenswet in that Superman suit, because if nothing else, that boy looks the part, and I think is going to do his absolute damn best to represent our boy in blue on the big screen. As to whether or not James Gunn's going to ruin it completely, that's only a matter of time before we find out.